ready to start. Power to serve.
Welcome back
Love all.
to
Best of 5.
another Super Squash Saturday. I'm joined again by Graham Riding, one of the legends of the game.
First 10 from Power.
And Graham, here we are again, sitting in our various locations across the country for this incredible day. As we watch some replays from last week, Graham, former Canadian champion and world-class player, your thoughts from last week's match?
So, first of all, Dean, nice to hear your voice again. Just gives me a bit of tranquility and peace when I sort of hear your melodic chime come through. What I'm looking for this week, I think, is a response from Diego.
Yes.
It could go their way last week, but you'd like to think in this series of matches that he's going to want to level the playing field and not go down 2-0. And I imagine last week would have been emotionally quite a difficult week living with Jonathan and having to hear him sort of daily, every morning, reminding that he lost that critical match last week.
Well, without a doubt. And Graham, I was quite surprised, not only Power's choice of outfits, again, the black socks I have a hard time looking at, but just his physical presence, his fitness levels. I mean, he really surprised me out there. He played quite well. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's maybe some drug assistance going on and some illegal doping behind the scenes. I'm not sure, but he looked as though he was his old self, the way he was moving around the court. Obviously, I'm joking about the former, but he looked like he was 25 again. The hardball game is you don't have to move around the court as much as you do in the softball game, but I was really impressed with how he moved. He didn't look 46 years old. He looked like his old self again.
And you see there the replay of that triple fake that he was known to do in his career. Let's just watch some of these replays, Graham. And you see, if I can recall that, we really screwed that call up, did we not? I think we gave a left point there. Clearly not a left point, but, that's squash, as you would say.
I've been losing some sleep over that call. He handed up big time and lured us right in on that one. I lost a hopefully we don't repeat that sloppiness again this week.
Well, I think, it was a learning experience for us. We got to be on these calls a little bit quicker. I don't want to lose our dialogue and our friendship over this either, Graham. I want to use these weeks to connect with you and just see how you're doing as well. But let's make sure we got an eye on this squash game. I mean, that is what we're here for after all.
Yeah, that's a fair point. These guys are
with the high black socks.
Much as
there you see Power just throw the racket. And Diego not pleased with losing to the veteran player.
A little bit of
maybe we should get him in the booth here, Graham.
I'm not sure if you get an echo from mine, but hopefully Trevor and the band can.
There is. I am having some difficulties with some echoes. And Trevor, hopefully, will be fixing that, or he'll be out of a job.
In the 9-10 playoff of the Nationals, as a 14-year-old.
I don't think we need to jump to that level.
Well, Graham.
But, this is, this is something we're putting our heart and soul into, if you will, and it would be nice if there was no echo.
Graham, I'm a professional, and I want to make sure this is done at the top level of quality. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and you are in your living room in a sweater, and that's irrelevant in my opinion.
Well, and as we see some more replays here, we're now at 5-2 in the fourth game from last week. Again, Power taking last week's match and a barn burner of a match, 14-12 in the fifth. But this is where Diego was starting to find his rhythm, Graham.
Speaking of last week, Dean, what did we learn from last week? If you're Diego, bear in mind, what did he lose by 2 points? Like, it could have gone either way. But if you're Diego, how do you respond this week? What are the changes you think he would be looking to make?
Well, Graham, I really think if Diego can get used to this pace and get on that ball faster, volley more, I think he can expose. Later, you see Jonathan whining and bitching about something. I think he can expose Jonathan's movement more if he can get on that ball faster. But I mean, it's a faster ball than the soft ball, and we'll see if he can make that adjustment. But if I'm his coach, I'm telling him to volley as much as possible and keep Power on his toes.
Right. The irony is, his coach is Jonathan, so Jonathan's not telling him anything this week, is he?
You know what? So let's talk about. So would Jonathan be coaching Diego against himself? There's a question for our viewers. Is he obligated as his full-time coach to coach Diego against himself? An interesting dichotomy there, Graham.
A fiduciary duty, if you will. Is the interest of Diego top of mind for Mr. Power this week, or is the crown and the ego perhaps taking precedent? Fabulous question.
I mean, it really is. It gets the mind thinking. I'm going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say he does not want Diego to win any points, and does not want to coach him whatsoever, and wants to physically and mentally dominate him here in his second match.
Yeah, really are going out on a limb. That is really a flyer.
And we see these replays. This is where we're 10-all in the fourth game. Power, if you remember that, we had made an error in thinking it was sudden death, but you have to win by 2. So just for everybody out there, we are playing hardball squash. We're playing on an international court, and you do got to win by 2 points. And if you recall, Graham, we thought the game was over there, and Power quickly proved us wrong. If he had won that point, I'm not sure if that result would have happened, but it did, and we got to win by 2 points here.
It's a great display of just these guys. Their emotions are right on the edge. Blood, sweat, tears. It's all out there, and as much as we're trying to have fun up here in the commentary booth, but that wasn't fun to Jonathan losing that fourth game, 12-10. I'll tell you that.
Well, certainly not. And there were many. Graham, I didn't realize how many controversial calls there were last week. There were. It looks like we played quite a part in the outcome of this match, which quite frankly, I don't mind at all. I don't mind that.
Fascinating little replay there. Did you see Jonathan do the old switcheroo on the racket where he came out tall? And that was where Diego tried to point out to the referee broken string, and we ended up saying no let on the call.
Which was the right call, Graham, and I believe you made that very quickly, and you knew what was going on there as a former world-class player.
This 40 years with this guy. I've seen that play. Well, exactly what he. Fascinating to watch him still try to pull the wool over my.
And he does pull the wool over many's eyes, Graham. He is a master showman. He is still has the talent and the quick hands that we're used to seeing. But probably as that belly grows and as his fitness level goes down, this probably becomes more important for him. Would you think in terms of his mental?
Yeah, like a key part of his strategy and a key part of his game is what can I get away with today?
Yes.
There.
And I'm getting something from Trevor in the van, Graham, that you're sounding a bit muffled to our fans out there. So I'm just relaying that message to our AV people and Trevor in the van outside just to make sure he can make that adjustment.
I'm not sure if I'm too close to my mic or not close enough, but
well, that's already sounding better to me, Graham. Well, it's going to be an interesting day. We'll see if Jonathan. I mean, it'd be quite a sight if he could rebound from last week without injury, Graham. I mean, he's not a young man.
Indeed, I'm getting some information here from our very deep resource crew, which is Trevor. Apparently, Jonathan has a wrist injury this week. He's going to play.
Well, there you go.
He's got something on his wrist to hopefully alleviate the the strain, but we do have an issue here. And
There you see, Power. Yes.
So we do have a dynamic here where Jonathan's trying to manage through a wrist injury. We'll see how that goes.
Well, I mean, he has played through everything. He has played all around the world, Graham. He is a competitor. And look at this rally, Graham. We're 13-12 in the fifth. This would have been match ball last week as the players.
Look at the quick footwork. 46 years old.
And there it is, Graham, with the fist pump and Power taking that first match of the Super Saturday Series with the smelly old headband, which he admitted he's been wearing since the late mid-'90s, which has been a factor in terms of the smell quotient on court. He admitted that himself.
Yeah, it's a legitimate strategy. Some people, Amy Hickok, who literally like this same outfit throughout a whole weekend, and by the final, it was not going that well on the court. This is a classic move by a veteran professional.
And there you just see the most embarrassing thing for me before we take a break here, the crowning of Power by Diego. Very embarrassing. We'll be back after a short break, and we will be live. Match number 2, Power against Elias. Yeah, Gray, you're really muffled, dude.
Really, eh?
Riding, former multi-Canadian champion at the game of squash, and was a top 10 player in the world. We just had a little brief intro to the show showing highlights of last week. I hope people were able to catch it. It was quite a match with Power, winning 14-12 in the fifth. And again, my good friend and squash legend, I'm afraid, Graham, you are a legend. You are getting quite old. Legend of the game, Graham Riding. Graham, your thoughts for today?
Well, my thoughts for today, I'm noticing out of the gate here that we've got something on Jonathan's wrist, so I'm not sure if that's going to be a factor. We'll find out. He does have the crown on, which is a good sign. It shows where his headspace is at. My thoughts today is let's see how Diego responds. Surely he's had a week to sort of marinate on what he would have liked to have changed from last week. I'm interested in your hardball view. We got Jonathan hitting with his left hand, which looks a little suspect.
Yeah, not a great lefty backhand. I mean, he can hit the forehand not too bad. Well, Graham, I think to answer your question, I think it's just a matter of if the young Peruvian has improved from week to week, and Jonathan, if he's physically well, I think that's a factor. But as I've been saying, I think Jonathan's going to be, assuming health is okay, it will be better than he was last week, and it's just a matter if Diego has picked up this game a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm interested on how Jonathan pulled up after last week's match. 12-10, 5 games. Physically, it was quite a test. For Diego, probably not so much, but for Jonathan, it was. So I'm interested to see how physically Jonathan responds this week as well.
Absolutely. And as we see on the screen there, we've got to thank a few people. Mitch Goldhar, who from Smart Centers has been a huge supporter of the game, has been Gary Slate from Slate Music. Graham, the Penguin pickup. What an ingenious idea, having Penguins deliver stuff right to your door. I'm not really sure how that works, but how do they get the Penguins to actually, know how to do that? It's quite an ingenious, that's the model, is it not?
Yeah, I believe that there are Penguins involved. I'm not sure what the fleet of Penguins is, but I think they are involved. But Slate Music also a sponsor in helping put this thing together. So Gary Slate, a big supporter of squash, also supporting this event. And I think it's important to sort of set this up to, how is this possible? Well, Diego and Jonathan, they were living together in sort of a training camp type environment before we headed into this social distancing shutdown. They've got access to the court here that's at the office of Smart Centers. So basically the court was shut down. Only Jonathan and Diego can have access to this court. So that's how they're able to keep training during this period. And I think that's where the idea came from. Let's put together a series of Saturday squash matches and make it super, Dean.
Absolutely. Well, you got to like the little wink from the Penguin there. He sort of, looks like he knows something we don't, Graham. But regardless, let's throw a shout out to Gary Slate and Mitch Goldhar, Smart Centers, and the Penguins of Penguin Pickup related to Smart Centers. We couldn't do this without their support. And I for one, I'm excited about quite a match here, Graham, today.
Well, last week was a lot of fun, Dean, and I'm sure. I think how big my social profile is. I'm quite big on social media, but this week I was overwhelmed with positive feedback from last week. So I'm looking forward to doing something again, Dean.
Yeah, good for you. Well, and that's a nice segue, Graham. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm going to. Is our good friend Martin Heath, who you would know from years playing. We'll get to that in a minute. But here come our combatants for a pre-game interview. We're going to each take them one by one, and we'll look forward to who's up first here. Who are we talking to before we start this new match? And Graham, why don't you take it here with Diego Elias?
Hi, Diego. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Diego, what are you thinking for this week? You obviously you lost a close match last week. It could have gone either way. What sort of adjustments are you looking to make today, and where's your head at?
Yeah, it was a really close match. It was tough, but I've been training this week, and I think I've been playing better every day. So I think I have a big chance today.
All right. Well, best of luck, and Dean, I'll put it over to you.
And Diego, just before you go, have you ever been told you look like a young Benicio del Toro? You do a little bit there, don't you think, Graham? He's got a nice way about him. Good, Diego, good luck to you, my friend.
Thanks.
And can we have Jonathan?
Hey.
Jonathan Power. Jonathan and Graham, I didn't want to bring you into this controversy because I didn't want you to be involved in it. But I too have done a bit of research, Jonathan, and I know that you talked about the crown and where you got it, dollar store, etc., wherever you got it. There's quite a thing on the internet right now that the king of Burger King has lost his crown, and it coincidentally the timing of it was right around when this started. So, hey, I'm not putting any fingers on you, Jonathan, but Could that be a possibility? Is that the legendary Burger King crown on your head?
Yeah, it was a late night mugging. I saw him drunk and he was wobbling a little bit, and I jacked him for his crown. Like everybody knows that's the truth, but.
And who wouldn't do that?
Okay.
Who wouldn't do that?
He's okay.
Right?
He's getting out of the hospital probably next week.
And you know what, guys? That's how you get in front of controversy. You admit what you did, and it's all over with. Jonathan,
That's it.
what are your thoughts for the match today? How do you feel, and what's your game plan out there?
Just excited to go out and play again. Did it last week, and hopefully I can find the same form quickly.
Well, good for you. Well, we're hoping the best of luck to both of you. Good luck. And
Jonathan, you're wearing eye guards this week. Are you feeling a little bit less safe out there than last week? Are you worried about Diego's follow through, or what's going on there?
I got a severe slap on the wrist from my mother, so I gotta protect my eyes.
Nadine, still looking out for you. I love it.
She is the one.
Good for you.
All right.
Okay, guys. Well, good luck out there, and Graham and I are looking forward to a great match. Graham, I didn't feel Jonathan had the confidence just going out there, and just in his interviews, perhaps the Burger King, revelation threw him a little bit, but
no, I don't disagree. He seems a little flat. He seemed a little nervous. I don't know if it's the wrist or if it's just the 23-year-old Peruvian Kuma. He's sort of worried about what's gonna come at him. But I agree. There was a bit of anxiety in there, I felt.
Yeah, he just did not seem to be the confident player he was last week. But, hey, Graham, it all could be gamesmanship. As you know, Power, he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve.
He certainly is the master of playing on the court and the head games, right? Trying to get into Diego's head. Have you ever played somebody who's a little bit injured, or they're limping around the court a little bit or stuff? It really can throw you off, and Diego's gonna have to deal with that right now.
For sure. And Graham, I gotta say, the first time, and Trevor, not sure what you're thinking, but first time I've seen instant replays in the warm-up. I don't know if I've seen so many slow-mo warm-up.
I think Trevor's just showing off a little bit of the skill set he's got, and he clearly does, Dean.
I mean, he clearly does. There's some really nice slow-mos of the players warming up for this match.
And notice we've got a front court camera this week, Dean. So we're going to get there's a great shot of the front court camera, and that'll be great for the replays. And
well, we're adding to the technology every week, Graham. And as we see, we are about to start. Well, Power trying to take the serve, I guess, assuming that because he won last week, he gets the serve, but that's not how this game works. And Diego Elias has, not sure we need that camera angle, has won the serve.
That was a great lesson for the kids out there. If you can try to steal the serve without spinning the racket, then go for it. Just a wonderful lesson on display there.
Absolutely, Graham. And here we go. Diego to serve, love all. Choosing the backhand serve, Graham, so he can step into that T position a little quicker. Game start. Power with a quick error, going for the drop shot up front. And Graham, I got to get something off my chest before we get into this match here.
Dean, don't take your shirt off. I'm not sure that would be appropriate for this.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that. What I like about this situation we're in is, you can do this stuff in your pajamas, no pants on. I mean, you just got to look sort of half decent from the waist up.
Right. That's a fair point. That really is the virtual living. I don't think society's been wearing a lot of pants for the last few weeks. Let's be honest.
Great to hear that stat from our viewers. As we see a nice tight ball there, Power with a nice lob, glued that against the wall, and Diego just couldn't get it off.
Score says 1-0, but I'm not sure it's 1-0. It's 1-1.
It is 1-2.
2-2. There we go.
The scoreboard, it was not visible. It is now. And as you know, Graham, I was flying blind last week. I didn't realize I could just flick the screen up and see the scoreboard, but I won't make that mistake this week. I'll tell you that much.
You covered it up well, Dean. Yeah, I just thought you were maybe drinking on the job or being a little sloppy, but you covered it up well.
As we see, Diego taking an early lead here, 3-2. Power. Look how tight that ball is, and he manages to scrape that off the wall for a winner. But where I was going, Graham, when we were really interrupted by this match, is this thing has taken off. Well, I think there was about 20,000 viewers last week. Great cross-court by Diego. And we, to the point now, we've got a Spanish feed, Graham, as you're aware.
Yeah, we do. We've got a couple of commentators are joining us. One from Peru, and then Esteban Casarino, who's a well-known South American squash personality. He's also in the booth.
Great job by Power.
Which just only adds to the viewership. And Diego's obviously got a huge following. Great racket work from Diego there. Did he go?
A little side front, Graham. Yeah. A little side front winner. Well, and where I'm going with this, I've been working hard on the Rosetta Stone Spanish. I mean, no one asked me if I could do this in Spanish or you. And, I just felt, a little bit of disrespect. But having said that, hey, not a lot of people know me in Peru, so it's probably better these guys are part of the scene. Right.
Yeah. Let's be fair. You're big in Ajax. You're big in Edmonton now. But you probably don't have the following in Lima that you think you do.
Yeah, you know what? That's a fair point. And I apologize for my ego getting in the way there.
Yeah, so, Rosetta Stone or not, I think you kind of need to rein in the ego a little bit and realize that.
Great length there by Diego. Dying in the back of the court.
6-all. We got a close game here, Dean.
It's 6-all.
I feel like Diego's shortened his swing a little bit this week. He's finding that length. He's being a little bit more aggressive out of the gate here.
I would agree with you, Graham. Nice patience. I also feel he's put a bit more time into his outfit this week, Graham. He's got a nice an orange-white combo. You see the sort of the spandex under the shorts that match the shirt and match the lettering on the shorts. So it's quite, he put some effort into today, Graham. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and Jonathan, as you so appropriately put, sporting the German tourist socks. Again, there's probably some sports science there, but he's...
what a shot by Power.
I think Jonathan's wearing the exact same outfit. I hope it was laundered, but I think it's the exact same outfit as last week.
I think it is too, Graham. And I would guess it has not been laundered. Tight shot by Diego. Power going for the three
right
ball
into
there,
the
Graham.
crown. Little bit of a metaphor there, perhaps. Sort of.
Look at that between the
right
legs.
Into the crown. 8-6 Diego, an early lead.
8-6. And we call there's not really a boast in the game of hardball, Graham. It's called a three-wall, and the reason why is it hits all three walls. Not very complicated.
Some great defense by the Latin assassin here. Gets himself back into the rally.
Players returning to Power, making some uncharacteristic errors, Graham, as Diego takes a 9-6 lead here.
This goes to show, even at 46, nerves can still come into play. Forcing it a little bit.
And the third camera, does that play a factor here with the players, Graham?
Absolutely not, Dean. These guys have played in so many different court conditions. Once they see that ball moving around the court, they're like a lion that's got its eye on the prey, and they are not going to let a camera or a crown or a couple of idiots in the commentating booth distract them from the task at hand.
Right, or us, Graham, or us. And Graham, when we speak about great drop there by Power and follows up with a volley, what a beautiful combination of shots.
Get to work on that replay.
There.
Thank you, Trevor. Front court camera view up.
And talk about climbing the ladder. Jonathan Power with a great.
Perfect length, too. Watch the finish here.
There and there.
Perfect length. That actually was really impressive.
That was That's athleticism, Graham. I mean, a lot of people don't think squash players are real athletes, but I mean, that showed right there that, this game requires a lot of athletic ability. As you saw, Power's super high vertical.
Do you notice Jonathan's choking up a little bit more this week on the racket?
I do see that now, Graham. Again, your eyes of a world-class player.
We got ourselves a tight first game here. Jonathan's responded well, 9-all. Right box. Player has to win by 2. Jonathan calling his own ball up. Thank you. Second serve here, Dean, 9-all.
2 serves in the game of hardball. Let's not forget to point that out to viewers. You're right, Power choking way up on that grip. Trying to shorten the swing. And calling this ball down after the third bounce, which is, a nice sort of gesture.
10-9 game ball.
And Diego Elias has the first game ball here. Dean Brown with Graham riding. Oh, and what a shot by Power.
Oh.
As he flicks that ball into the front right nick.
10-all. Seems to be managing through any issues with the wrist very well this first game out.
Yes.
Bit of an overhit. Diego's going to want to lay that down a bit.
Oh, what a nice hole by Diego, sending Power crashing into that back glass. Nice little hold there.
How many times have we?
Medicine.
I was just going to say, how many times have we seen Mr. Power do that to his opponents over the years? That one a great response.
And we have ourselves, Graham, an incredible opening game again.
Nobody's given an inch here. Nobody's given an inch.
Power misses that opening. That was right there for him, Graham. You hate to miss those open court volleys. Ball right on his racket. We return to action here.
Now, I'm wondering if Diego could try to open the court up a little bit somehow and expose the movement, even if it's...
Oh, look at this, Graham. Oh, what a get by Diego, Graham.
I'm just wondering if you can get Jonathan moving a little bit, will it sort of pay dividends later in the match?
As we see him sprawling onto the court there with his Fanta Pop outfit.
12-all.
We are 12-all in this opening game. Jonathan Power, Diego Elias.
Lob serve. Both players measuring their length.
I find Power's getting a little lower as well, Graham, with his body, getting really low to that ball with the short grip.
If you watch Jonathan's head, it's very still. It doesn't move much, and that all the adjustments are made with his legs.
What a great ball, Graham. Great length, perfect length. You see Power boxing him out there. Look at that, Graham.
13-12 game ball.
Power working that right side, moving Diego around.
Oh.
And Diego has hit a 10 to give Power the first game, Graham. 14-12, I believe.
I would not have called that. Watching the first few rallies, I thought Jonathan looked a little tentative. He seemed a little anxious coming into the game. He seemed to really settle himself down, and I think we got a little barn burner on our hands, Mr. Brown.
You know what, Graham? I'm not going to disagree with you. As we see that winking penguin from Penguin Pickup, Smart Centers, and of course Gary Slate Music, proud sponsors of this fantastic event, which has hit a global audience, Graham. I am not sure if we're still on, Graham, or not, but I'm going to continue with the voice and talking the way I am, just in case we are.
I think we're still on, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
I'm going to take this opportunity. A little shout out. A bit of a legend in the Canadian squash game. Sam Cornett retired this week. Dean, I'm sure you're aware of that.
I did see that.
She's from just outside of Ottawa. She got to as high as I think 23 in the world. But if I got that wrong, I apologize, Sam. But she's had an amazing career. Won the nationals many times. Was sort of captain of the women's national team for many years, and she's officially retired this week. So she's been a great ambassador for the game, Dean. Somebody that has given a lot more to the game than you have, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little shout out was appropriate.
Well, I was going to say, and let's not forget, just a very, very nice person, Graham. A very nice person.
She's an all-around full package, Dean. She's got a great following off the court, and on the court she's a complete professional.
So I got distracted there, and I need to do this, Graham, as we start the second game. Our good friend Martin Heath, who you know, who was a top player in the world, and I believe he got to number 2 or 3 in the world.
Wonderful accent.
Wonderful accent.
The content that comes out of his mouth is not the highest quality, but doesn't matter. His accent is excellent, so he can get away with it, right?
And absolutely, and he's been struggling. He has just gone onto Instagram, and you can search for him, but really been struggling with trying to get followers. And I didn't tell him I was going to help him out, but I just felt after talking to him, he needed some help. He's posted some of his Tinder shots and various pictures like that on there. But Martin, I mean, let's use this as an opportunity to get you your followers as a new user of Instagram, Graham. And it couldn't go to a better guy.
Yeah. Well, no, it probably could have, but nonetheless, it's a nice gesture. Nonetheless, little tickle boast. Diego, nice response out of the gate here. He needs to get this game, Dean. In the whole spectrum of what's going on here, he doesn't want to go down 2-love, and be interesting to see if he tightens up or if he just sort of finds his rhythm in this game.
And Graham, your comment on the shortened grip on Power. Why don't you explain to our viewers what that is giving Jonathan today and why he would have made that adjustment?
What a return to serve there. I mean, that one can't let that one get past the without a comment. Up high, little reverse post. Almost a stroke there if he wanted it. Getting Jonathan to move here a little bit. Diego exposing perhaps the age difference between the two of them here. A couple of drop shots in a row.
Almost a softball rally there, Graham. Sort of dropping Power to the front.
And if there was a way to summarize what Diego wants to try to instill in this match, the closer he can get this match to feel like a softball game, the better.
Power looking for a let, and Graham. We are playing a let. 2-3.
So you asked earlier about the grip.
Yes.
Choking up on the grip technically provides you with a little bit more control. Just think of the leverage of the racket will be a little bit less. So there's a little bit more control. The head is closer to the hand, but you give up some power, and you give up a little bit of leverage when you do that. So he's obviously said, I'm going to give up a little bit of power. Hopefully the ball control and the control will benefit. That's what he's trying to get at there.
Thank you, Graham Riding. As we see Diego take a lead here, 5-2 in the second game. Power trying to force an opening here. Little reverse there from Power at the front. And again between the legs. We've seen that before in this match, Graham.
Oh, well anticipated.
Oh, what a rally this is.
We're seeing it all this rally, Dean.
Power.
Watch
this, Graham.
Squash.
Whoa. What a shot by Power. There's the between the legs again.
And did it go out? I think Diego's asking for a replay. Did that ball go out of the court? Can we get a replay of that, Trevor? Is it possible to see?
Yeah, it really is not, especially from that angle, Trevor.
Here's the angle. I think the ball went out right there.
Graham Riding.
There it is. Trevor.
Multiple Canadian champion.
Showing
look at the pivot on Power. Look at that leg. Look at that foot go up.
Okay, we're gonna play a lot. It's obviously too close to call from our angle. If the players are okay with that, we're gonna call a let on that play.
Well, should we ask Power? I mean, can we ask him if he thought the ball was good? Maybe.
5-2. What's the score?
As we see the slow motion moonwalk there of Jonathan, as he
showing some sportsmanship, playing a let on the call.
Playing a let, and a great length by Power as he uses the controversy to his advantage here.
You know, as the great James Zugg once said, you know, good length really is the holy grail of squash, and Jonathan putting on a full display right there, Dean.
And it's a great reference to James Zugg, one of the preeminent writers of the hardball game, particularly.
It's a great racket work. They're choking up they're full display right there. Look at the short swing. Great hand-eye coordination.
Great book James Zugg wrote on the history of squash, which with the foreword, I believe, was by George Plimpton, who contributed to that book, a famous literary figure, obviously, in the American world. Although he is English.
Dean, getting back to the squash here, if I'm Diego, I want to pick the pace up. I want to use four corners of the court. I want to get Jonathan off the tee. Easier said than done.
And there's Diego pounding that ball to the backhand corner. And as we see the ball, and as we said last week, Graham, what's the rule of Super Squash Saturday?
The rule is you got to get your own ball, and if you remember growing up, Dean, if you hit the ball out of the court, you have to go get it. And
correct.
This is playground rules out here still, Dean, on full display.
And thank God for me, Graham, I was more of a tin guy than an out guy, so I never really had to get the ball that much.
Tin Magnet, was that a nickname for a couple of years, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, that would be me. I mean, I enjoyed the sound of it, which became a bit of an issue for me at times. But realizing not worth losing so many points over the sound, took me a couple of years. What a shot by Diego!
Well, Jonathan's come back here. We're now at 5-6. He's going to want that one back.
There, talk about a sound. That was I'm going to just say what it was.
Classic.
That was a brutal tin. Look at that, set right up and just buries it.
That was vintage.
In the floor.
What was that? 85 Brown? 86?
That would have been, probably, I'd say, probably Toronto and District kind of semifinal era.
A little tired. Just hammered in the tin. Yep.
Exactly. And we see
6-all. There's not an inch between these two guys, Dean.
These guys are playing very even right now. Power with that short grip, as Graham pointed out earlier. Diego on the commanding end of this rally, working Power around the court. And as you see, Power almost let's get out of this rally. He looks tired. Oh, he looks tired.
The old bent over on the racket. That's not a good sign if you're 46 and wearing some German tube socks.
But interesting, he does it in full display of Diego. Let's just see.
Some gamesmanship, Mr. Brown, perhaps? Trying to suck him into the old I'm exhausted, but I'm not?
And there we go.
Is it just me, Dean, or and I didn't think this was possible, but is the quality of the squash a little bit higher this week?
I would tend to agree with you, Graham. There's more thinking out there. There's more construction of rallies.
There's more movement with the ball. There's a lot more front court going on.
There's a lot more tiredness from Jonathan, as again he bends over. But having said that, he is still very much in this game, Graham. As we see,
8-6, Diego. Now this is really his opportunity. He does not want to let his guard down here.
Power struggling to get to move around a little bit here, Graham. And Diego is really forcing the issue. Yeah. He's now gone up 9-6.
A little bit of a smirk from Mr. Elias there.
And that's where we say, you see, when you're a little bit tired and your opponent hits one, and you just kind of say, too good. Too good.
You kind of just laugh at him a little bit, right? That just hurts. 10-6, game ball.
Bit of a rope-a-dope here, perhaps, from Jonathon Power. Going to give this second game up, potentially to save himself.
Not a bad strategy. He's only got so much in the tank.
Oh, and what a rally there, though. Had Diego on a string that rally, despite not trying a whole lot in this rally, but that's sometimes the way it goes. When you're not trying, things just seem to fall into place.
Uncharacteristic mistake. The ball's down, 11-7. Diego, we've got ourselves a match, 1-1.
We do, as Diego walks off looking confident. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Mitch Goldar, Smart Centers, Penguin Pickup, and Mr. Gary Slate, who has been such a supporter of squash, both singles, doubles, around the world. I mean, what a class act this guy is.
Now, Dean, when the music goes on like that, are we off the air, or are we still?
Graham,
do you know what?
Idea? The answer I'm going to give you is I do not know. So I think we stay in character a little bit here, and we sort of, how is your family doing? How are your kids?
Yeah. Well, every Saturday I disappear for a couple hours to do some squash commentating, and they really don't understand why. They don't understand what's going on. My daughter thinks I'm a YouTuber now, which she thinks is quite interesting. But my sons just they don't understand why I disappear into the garage for a couple hours and put on some headphones and look at my iPad for a couple hours, Dean.
Right.
That's the reality.
Got it. And then back in the house, and then back to the garage again for other reasons. But I mean, we don't need to get into that now.
Yeah. Well, I just tell them it's Super Squash Saturday afternoon.
And Super Squash Saturday to me is the day, Saturday, right?
Right.
This is a day dedicated to the game of hardball squash.
Well,
Graham, we got to thank our sponsors here, but there's a gentleman that has been very supportive in this match. James McRoberts, who is I believe I don't know if I've met him, but he's definitely been in our circles, Graham.
He's a well-known friend of the squash community, especially the community out west. Good friend of Jonathan's. I believe he's been a supporter of this event as well. So I think it's appropriate that a little shout out to Mr. McRoberts.
This is incredible here.
I think he's forgot his eye guards, Dean, and safety first, even in Super Squash Saturday. Diego choosing not to wear the eye guards, but I think that would be a reflection. He doesn't wear them on tour. It'd be too foreign for him to wear the eye guards Super Squash Saturday.
Well, again, Mitch Goldhar, Gary Slate, James McRoberts as well. We want to thank you, James, for all your hard work in this. As we start the third game, games are tied at 1-1. And a uncharacteristic, well, not really. He's hit a bunch of tins on his forehand. So Power taking the first point, 1-love.
So a good response in the second game there, Dean, by Diego, or what I think otherwise known as the Machu Picchu of South American squash. And he's not afraid of climbing the mountain of Mr. Power this week, and he's responded very well.
Graham, what an analogy, and that's why you are been called to this job. It's incredible the way you put Machu Picchu and this youngster together like that, so eloquently. as we see a let.
We're gonna play a let there.
Well, Graham, looks like the Spanish guys aren't on. We can get them on.
That's just experience, Dean. That's just they're doing their best. They're new to this, but this is obviously what do we have? 7 days under our belt. We're long in the tooth here, Dean.
We absolutely, and there you see Power working that backhand side, getting low on the tee. He's really working the middle of the court here. Jonathan is really. But misses that 3-wall.
So, Dean, if you're Jonathan, how are you responding here early in the third game?
Yeah, again, Graham, I think what Diego has done well is he sucked Jonathan in a little bit into a softball sort of style of play here. A lot of up and down the wall.
The Prince of Peru is really showing his class right now, Dean.
He certainly is, Graham. And a multitude of names he has, as you know, Graham. And, Graham, you know them all. But I think Jonathan he's got to get more hard ball if you will. He's got to mix the ball up. I'd like to see him hit some skid boasts. I'd like to see him hit a few more reverses. Maybe some reverse boasts.
We're gonna play a let. No, we're not playing a let. No let. It was like they were just checking if we were watching, and to be honest, I wasn't really watching much there, Dean. I sort of got a little casual, and I apologize to our fans. Yes, let.
Yeah, so they got to play let there. Let given.
Trevor, can we see the score, please? It's not on not on display right now, so we don't.
I believe.
Do we know the score?
I think it's 1-2, 2-1, Diego, but you might have to ask the players for some
clarification. Might have to ask the players. I'll tell you what, they know the score. Players, what's the score? 4-4.
4-all. Second game. Games are tied at 1-all as the players clarify. Both the Trevor in the van and us.
And you know what, dude? That's just Super Squash Saturday. Let's just call it what it is. Sometimes you got to go to the players and ask them what the score is. That's old school refereeing right there.
And with Jonathan involved, Graham, nice to see they agreed on the score as you get your own ball here again.
And Diego, twice out of the court. It's got to be a little bit embarrassing and possibly going to rattle him that he's had to walk out of the court twice. But 5-4, Jonathan.
As we see Power taking his time, picking up that hard ball, which is quite hard to squeeze, actually, unlike the softball. More of a rock.
If I'm Diego, I'm going to try to pick up the pace. I'm going to try to extend the rallies.
Oh, Power reading that perfectly, but clipping the tin. As you see him read that ball right on his racket.
Almost overread it. I think he thought Diego's cross would be a little bit wider.
And Graham Riley, we're here at the court of Mitch Goldhar Smart Centers, but you played all over the world as Power gets his own ball. You played in front of the pyramids. You played in Grand Central Station on the glass court, among other places. Your favorite court? I'm going to ask that in two parts. Your favorite venue, Graham, number one, and the court that you just played well on at all times. Give me those if you don't mind as we watch live action here.
6-5 and just 6-all here.
It is 6-all.
6-all. Favorite venue, I would have to say when they had the Canadian Open at BCE Place or Brookfield Place back then. That was a favorite, just with the home fans, and the energy was electric, and the venue was incredible. Yes,
there's a let ball. Yes,
getting a little bit physical, which, to be honest, Dean, I like to see. I like to see a bit of tension out there. 6-all. Favorite court would probably have to be the court in Doha. It was a very hard floor. Jonathan and I grew up training on very hard floors.
6-all.
So it worked well with my game. That would be the favorite court, if you will. Dean, how about you? Your illustrious career, what was your favorite venue?
Well,
the Windsor Racket and Tennis Club, perhaps, or maybe Regency in Brampton. What stands out for you?
Regency I did like, Graham. It's funny you should say that. A little bit, court was a bit too hot for me. I enjoyed the London Squash Club.
Classic.
The courts were very, very cold, and I didn't ever like to run, so you could put the ball away a lot quicker. And I ended up going to school there. I chose Western specifically to play on those courts.
It's smart to to frame your life with so many repercussions where you go to school around a squash court. That seems like a very prudent decision, Dean.
Absolutely, and then really doing nothing with it after school. So,
right.
But that's nor here nor there. 6-all.
Long rally here on display.
Great tight ball by Power. Oh, and Power with an opening there on the backhand side.
He's going to want that one back.
And he can't believe it.
Just caught the top of the tin. Unlucky because it was a great rally from both of them. And Jonathan, quite frankly, can't afford to let those ones slip away. 7-6 Diego.
As we see orange and white, the Orange Crush, the Denver Broncos. I mean, there's a number of uniforms that fall into that color palette.
Both players taking a little breather here, just showing the physical demands that are being put on both players. This is a physical chess, if you will.
Graham, that is the shot I'm talking about. Trevor, could we see that? That's a hard ball, roll corners, side front, and I think he needs to do a lot more of that to keep Diego on his toes.
And that's a shot that Jonathan would have in his arsenal and Diego perhaps would not. Is that a fair comment, T?
I think that's very fair to say, Graham. Very fair to say. I really think he needs to do that a lot more. See, there's Diego's attempt of it, and it just popped right up for Power.
Again, just sitting up a little bit. You do not want the ball to sit up in this game. You got to lay it down, Dean. Am I right?
A bit of a flatter face on it, Graham, in the softball game.
8-7 Diego.
But you saw again there, Power forcing a beautiful opening and just again hitting the top of the tin. There we go. Power.
Jonathan getting a little bit creative there. Trying to hit the reverse post from inside the left side of the court. Very unconventional.
Yes, and just clip the top of the tin again. I mean, if he can just improve his margins there slightly, get that ball a little higher. Oh, and what a shot by Diego. A beautiful backhand cross-court, Graham. If you could show us that shot there.
Is that not vintage Shabana or what? That was racket work at its best. The Latin assassin showing he's got all the tools in the bag. That was a weapon on display. And then a roll. I think this guy's been practicing, doing some solo practice this week, Dean.
Absolutely, and that is what I referred to earlier as the 3-wall, Graham, which puts Diego up 2-1 in this series. Super Squash Saturday, Power winning last week and coming out strong with taking the first game, but since then, Graham, it's been all Diego Elias.
Smart Center's Penguin Pickup Slate Music. I hope you're enjoying what you've been supporting. This has been quite the display of squash, a second week in a row, and we're talking about points going either way, Dean, between these two players.
Well, absolutely, and I hope that Jonathan can return here and start strong. I'd love to see this go 5 games again, as I'm sure most of our fans would.
Dean, can I ask you where, or not ask you, I know where you are, but perhaps you can, you're out in Edmonton, I believe, commentating. Just give us a bit of context of what you're up to and the squash community out there, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I'm out here. I'm working for the Oilers Entertainment Group. I'm working with a guy named Simon Bennett and for Daryl Cates, who owns the Oilers, and in a new fitness company called Archetype. So I'm out here back and forth between here and Toronto. But the squash community, I've joined a squash club in Edmonton called the Edmonton Squash Club. And it's a great little community out here. So shout out to Edmonton Squash Club. There's some good players out here, some guys from our junior years, Graham. If you remember, the tall, lanky lefty, Jeremy Main is out here.
Mr. Main.
And he's quite a fixture out here in the squash community.
Mr. May, when I think of Jeremy, all I can think of is probably, arguably, the best reverse boast west of Winnipeg is sort of how I would describe Jeremy Main.
Absolutely. Well, he's a big. I mean, I've seen him play many times. If there was a sort of a wild pitch in squash, I would associate it to Mr. Main. He is a talented, tough to manage, tough to main and control, but he is a raw player out there, at least in these small circles in Edmonton.
Right. And the Peruvian Puma up 2-1, down 1-0 in the series of matches. You got to think he's going to be pretty hungry here to sort of put this match to bed. And I'd imagine last week was not very fun. They're living together. I'm sure Jonathan was not very forgiving, and I'm sure he was on him all week, reminding him who owned the crown. This is his opportunity to get that crown for the first time ever away from Jonathan's scalp.
And I don't like the way this first game. Well, Power got away with it, but I don't like those exchanges of drops in the front left corner for Jonathan. I think that's playing right into Diego.
Going through the legs there. I hope that the fan base caught that. Do not try that at home.
Do not. And there's power between there's been many between the legs, Graham. There's more than I see in your average club player match.
I think that's a reflection, Dean, of the hard ball just moving so quickly that it's just a shot that you have to have in your bag.
Oh, and we missed with the camera switcher. I think we missed a dive shot. Power diving.
I think he got the ball, Dean.
Well, it's irrelevant because the ball is now in the back corner. Their Power. Look at that stretch as the black German tourist socks come into the camera.
Jonathan, did you get that ball?
Great effort, Mr. Power. Look at that. Not very graceful. Sort of Graham, I want to call it kind of a fall more than a dive, but,
Is it a double? I think it's a double.
I mean, the dive guy has now become perhaps fall guy.
Yes, let 1-all.
There's a let as Power turns quickly.
That would have been an uncomfortable match if he had paid out on Mr. Elias there, but he chose not to. Classy move from Power. Classy.
Very classy. And whether it was a dive or a fall, I mean, it is irrelevant. What it showed to me, Graham, is Jonathan is still competing and into this match. As he does again, falls onto the court floor. And Diego straightening out his ankle, giving him a little physio there before getting him up. Oh, a little slip there, Graham.
The shoe almost came off, Dean. There's a lesson for the kids. Double knot, lace it up tight. It's got to be game tight. I remember years ago, a friend of mine, Kelly Patrick, he used to lace his squash shoes up 3 hours before his match, game tight. That's what you need to do when you're professional.
Absolutely, and a professional he was. 2-1. Diego Elias, the Pan American champ, as Power hits what we call a Toronto boast, which is floor front wall.
3-1 here. Point. Squash's Latin lover showing there's no love lost between him and Mr. Power here.
Absolutely not, Graham.
Ooh.
And Diego is really, he's almost laughing at how well he's playing right now.
Is he just having some fun out there, Dean? Is that what we're seeing?
Look at this, just boom, boom, and boom. Little half volley between the legs, winner.
Oh.
Hello.
Full skill on display, 4-1.
And Diego's closer. And what is going to be most painful about this is not just the loss, Graham. It will be the crowning of the Burger King crown.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves
Diego.
Yet. Let's not get ahead of ourselves yet. This match is not over, Dean. How many times have we seen Jonathan pull back from the depths of despair? Oh, he got it.
What a get there. Oh. Diego! What a rally. Diego's defense is relentless here.
Uh-oh.
Power made an incredible get right there.
Perhaps should
look at that get, and there's Diego. He looks up and says, "Hey, there's the ball. Might as well hit it," and he hits a winner.
Jonathan, full end-to-end court coverage, walking it off.
He is walking it off, but look at that get there. Diego looks up, and the ball lands on his racket by the graces of God. And we are 5-1, I believe, now, as Trevor makes the adjustment. Jonathan has a bit, looks like there's an ankle issue. I don't know if this could be the end of this match unless Jonathan, perhaps an injury timeout. I mean, it is self-inflicted. 5-1.
Jonathan, do you need some time? Walk it off.
We're going to have a timeout here. Jonathan is going to seek our physio. And hopefully he's okay, joking aside. Hopefully Jonathan is not.
6-1. Just goes to show, Dean, this is these guys are throwing themselves around the court. And, you got to be in shape to play this game. Jonathan he's actually looking like he's in better shape than I've seen him in years. The legs look strong. He's moving well, but it's no small task to try to throw yourself around the court with the likes of Diego Elias.
And you got to see Diego this week. His defense, Graham, has been remarkable. He is, he's hit a couple of forehand tins, but generally he's gotten balls back. Look at that, between the legs, cross-court drop Nick, which is not easy to do. I don't care who you are.
Still finds a way to put it right in the nick. He's going to enjoy that replay for many years, Dean. Nobody can ever take that away from him.
Absolutely not. Super Squash Saturday. We are in an injury timeout right now, as Jonathan Power, who has been falling, diving all over the court today in an attempt to fend off the offense and defensive prowess of Diego Elias. He is down 2-1. He's down 6-1 in the fourth. And there has been some incredible rallies today, Graham.
And the front court camera this week, I think, has been a great addition to the production. We've seen some, look at this replay. That's from the front court camera. That's pretty professional stuff from Trevor.
Let's see here where Power's injury actually took place. I was trying to just pinpoint where it happened when he came out of that back corner up to the front, but I couldn't really.
It looks like an Achilles or a calf, which is it doesn't take much to strain that part of the body. It's quite sensitive, so does not look to be walking too well.
Well, we have not heard from the physiotherapy team here on site on what's happening with Mr. Power, but how we see here, Graham. So right there, he's in the back corner. There's Diego's get. Power's seeing he's got it and goes and can't believe it. And now he starts moving.
Watch that left foot.
Right there, Graham, I think, as he sort of sidestepped up to the front. I think he might have rolled it onto its side a bit.
Well, I'm sure we'll get an update soon enough, Dean, but it was a full sprint, the length of the court, 30 feet. For those people who don't know the dimensions of a squash court, so it's not a huge space.
Graham, it's 32 feet, Graham. You bugged me about ranking, so the court is 21 by 32.
No, I was going to add on the extra 2 feet. I just, that's how I like to say 30 feet plus 2 feet. You cut me off.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Okay. Well, looks like he's going to try here, Dean. 6-1.
Let's see, he's warming up, and this is sometimes, Graham, as you would know in your career, and I did this myself a few times. You get injured, and sometimes your opponent just slays off a little bit and thinks this is going to be a walkover, and all of a sudden, you can't get your intensity back, and you're down a few points. Is that fair?
How many times have we seen Jonathan respond well from an injury timeout?
Look at Power, totally in control, but he calls Diego's ball down there, Graham. Diego thought it was good.
I think it was good. Perhaps Trevor would have an angle for us here.
There we go. One. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Here we go. One. Oh,
yeah, he got
just got it, Graham.
The
As
coach
Diego
not too happy. The coach not too happy. 7-1.
Well, the good thing about this is he can take credit as well as a coach for the win. And we are 8-1 now. As Diego is closing in on this match, the second match of a series of Super Saturday Squash.
His movement doesn't look 100%, does it, Dean?
It doesn't. And there's another between the legs winner to add insult insult to injury.
Is there a little revenge here for perhaps?
Look at that! Just a casual.
Last week.
What a cool shot that was, Graham. It was very, one for power response. One for the kids, one for everybody, really. And we're 9-2, Graham, and it looks as though today is 10-2. Excuse me. We are a match
10-2
ball.
Match ball.
It looks as though this is not going to be Mr. Power's day. And I hope Diego doesn't let the injury ruin his, making fun or humiliating Jonathan with the crown. I think he deserves it.
Well, think about what's on the line here. This is him about to become the undisputed world champion of hardball squash. Right? The fact that it's just him and Jonathan is irrelevant. He's about to become world champion for this week at least.
And they're
there it is.
Going through the motions now. But there it is. Diego has taken the second match as Power throws his racket down in anger and obviously in frustration. He's injured.
He's not happy. Diego, little smile on his face, Dean. And nice to see a little handshake after the game. A little fun fact, but, the handshake used to be... back in the day, came from the fact that you're showing that you've got no weapon in your hand. That's why people would shake hands back in the day. Dean, I'm sure you know that, but clearly,
of course I do.
These two players have a lot of weapons in their hand, but still willing to shake hands after the match is excellent.
And let's just see how Diego, who now gets into the middle of the court to receive the undisputed self-proclaimed
there's a headband throw,
and the smelly headband thrown at Diego's face before the crown goes on. And here comes the crown. Bit of a clash, the red with orange, but, let's not get too excited about that. As Diego, Jonathan, this has got to be killing him, Graham, riding.
This is not going to be fun for him. It can it get on top of that huge Peruvian cranium? Is it big enough?
And there it is. And actually, I gotta say, it stands up a little nicer on Diego. It's a bit of a flopper on Jonathan, but
a little bit of a body blow there, just to keep him honest.
Well, combatants, why don't we have a quick few words, Jonathan? I know you're injured. Why don't I take Jonathan here, Graham? Jonathan, we're terribly sorry you experienced injury. You've been around the block before with injury, and unfortunately that happened today. Can you explain what happened first of all? What happened with your ankle?
No, it was just a really tough match. He was playing great, and I just started cramping up at the end. To be honest, it's been really difficult. Sort of in those middle games, there were some really long rallies this week, and I wasn't used to it. And he played well.
Well, it's nice to see we've got a match here. We've got one match all. We're looking forward to next Saturday. Your thoughts, Jonathan, for next Saturday? How are you going to get ready for this guy? He's getting better every week. What are your thoughts?
I think I can play better next week. So I just need to do a little bit more training. The problem is I rested on my laurels from last week. I was really celebrating a lot of beer, a lot of hanging around the house, bragging to Diego.
Yeah, you look tired.
It was a little bit. I spoiled it. But I played hard today, and he was just too good.
Well, Jonathan, we wish you the best of luck. Graham, any comments for Jonathan?
Well, no comments, but good lesson for the kids. Don't let your guard down, Jonathan. But all hats off to you, Jonathan, that you're honest enough to admit out of the gate here where you perhaps got a little bit too comfortable with the crown last week, and as high as the mountains are, I'm sure this is going to be a tough week for you. Are you prepared for what Diego might be bringing to you this week?
I'm thinking of breaking quarantine and running to the hills. I don't think I can deal.
Well,
it's gonna feel
good. Jonathan, thank you.
It's gonna be tough.
And best of luck next week. We're going to be here and look forward to another great match of Super Squash Saturday.
And Diego, can I just Diego, what was the difference this week? You seemed a little bit sharper to me. You seemed to make a few adjustments. Do you have any color into sort of the changes that you made?
I've just been training really hard. I was so pissed off. He's been walking the crown all day, every day, around the house. I would wake up for training and he would be still having beers at 6 a.m. I was ready for training and he was still celebrating. So this is what
and do you plan on drinking beer all week and just just rubbing it in Jonathan's face, or do you plan on being a professional and running with this confidence and this momentum?
I'm a professional. Yeah, I'm a professional. I wanna win next week. I feel like I'm getting way better in hardball, so every week he's gonna have less chance.
And Diego, will you sleep with the crown, or what's the plan? With
I'm gonna wear it all day. He's been wearing it every single day. This week it's been the worst nightmare.
And Diego, this week, so what would have been the worst thing Jonathan did to you this week in terms of letting you know that he beat you? I mean, I'm sure it was relentless, but was there one thing that stood out that this week you're going to say, you know what? Remember you did that to me the last week? Well, this is what I'm going to do back to you this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing everything to me. I've been doing his laundry. I've been doing everything. So now this week he's gonna be doing all that. What?
I don't think you heard that one.
No.
Well, Diego, just remember, it takes a big man to cry, but a bigger man to laugh at that man. Guys, I think that was an incredible display of squash again today, and we wish you the best of luck, Diego. I hope you hammer him all week and are relentless in your mental destruction of him. He deserves it from Graham and I and all the others he's tortured over the years. Please get him back for all of us, and we look forward to an incredible match next week. Graham, in closing.
Thanks,
guys.
I want to thank you guys. You guys did a great job again, and I want to thank Esteban and Andreas doing the Spanish commentating. But you guys did a great job again. So thanks.
Great. We'll see you next week.
So just before we close off here, Graham Riding, what are your closing thoughts on Diego's really dominance of Jonathan today?
Well, it makes for a more interesting series, to be honest, Dean. I was a little bit concerned that Jonathan would just go from strength to strength and build a little 2-0 lead in this series, and we might not have the competitive dynamics that we could have. But Diego came back, responded really well. Jonathan's physicality caught up with him a little bit this week, so perhaps he's going to pull back on sort of the extracurricular leisure activities this week and be a little more focused, perhaps, because he's going to need to if he's going to respond next week and make a comeback.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you saw in his face he did look like he's been partying all week. So hopefully he will take this week as an opportunity to rebuild and regain his composure. And we look forward, everybody, to the rubber match, at least for now. Super Squash Saturday, next Saturday at noon here on YouTube. Thank you, Smart Centers, Slate Music, and of course that winking penguin, the penguin pickup, which I'm going to look into how that exactly works. But we know it is pickup through Smart Centers, which is incredibly useful at this time. On behalf of Graham Riding, we're signing out, guys. See you next week. Super Squash Saturday.